Zack Snyder's Justice League. Obviously, reaction to a Zack Snyder movie can be very divisive. He has been throughout his career as a filmmaker. We've seen this alone in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. The responses from my social media feeds has been high praise for this movie, being a major improvement over the theatrical version released in 2017. I think this is just more of the same. I'm not talking about the same as, BVS or Man of Steel or even just the runtime being too long. It's not that. Long superhero stories are getting more common in pop culture, and I'm totally fine with that. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Avengers Endgame. So I'm not against long runtimes here. I just mean that it's more of the plot I already felt like I had a good comprehension of. I feel like I didn't learn too much that I didn't already know before. Also, I'm surprised at how much of Snyder's shots actually did make it into the theatrical cut. Some scenes that I was sure Joss Whedon shot were actually shot by Snyder and kept in, and then the reverse for others, scenes that I thought were shot by Zack Snyder were actually shot by Joss Whedon. Yes, Joss Whedon did change key plot elements and characters' impacts on the overall story, but he didn't add as many new shots to the final release version as perceived, in my opinion. And I don't want to dive into too many of the same characters like I did with the theatrical cut release video, but I think it's important, so I will try my best to breeze through. Let's start with Aquaman. Overall, he's pretty much the same as before, just with more backstory that all eventually gets revealed in his own solo movie. And I still think it made sense to cut his stuff out of the theatrical release at the end of the day because he had a movie coming up the following year. So, yes, it was nice to get more Aquaman stuff here and more lore, but this all gets talked about in the solo movie. So, I feel like it was just retreading the same thing. Flash, I was a little bit shocked at how humorous he was meant to be in Zack Snyder's vision. I get why his stuff with Iris West was taken out of Whedon's cut because he was supposed to be getting a solo movie before his film went through multiple major revisions of directors and writers coming and going and borderline being in development hell. For all of the hype of needing Superman to save the day in this film, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was actually Flash that saved everyone at the end of the day with his time travel Speed Force sequence. In the Justice League film, I'm going to be running out of ways to differentiate the two films, but it's fine. We're going to keep going either way. Flash was perceived as never having saved someone and learning how to be a hero. And I liked that. Even Batman just finding a way to push Barry in the direction of saving one person, because he had never done that up to this point. If you have a kid, Barry Allen, in this universe, I think that makes a lot more sense to me to follow that path to a hero rather than just him being a practical god already who just doesn't quite know how to use his powers in a team unit. With Wonder Woman, she gets to be far more badass here, obviously. It's a nicer touch to have her learn of the coming threat rather than just knowing about it and spilling that exposition to Bruce and the rest of the team, like in the 2017 film. But I actually find much of her appearance unchanged story-wise. I'm glad they took out the scene where Flash falls on top of her and makes it kind of awkward. That was not a good Joss Whedon scene, in my opinion. But I'm actually surprised at how much of the character development between Wonder Woman and Batman was actually Joss Whedon. I actually liked that approach better than having her just be a roster filler. I felt like she just didn't have any stakes in the team here. At least in the 2017 film, Wonder Woman and Batman, while it wasn't exactly completely meant to be a budding romance, there was at least some form of relationship between two people building that I kind of thought would have been in Zack Snyder's Justice League, and it wasn't. Superman, we've been told that he fills out his character arc from Man of Steel to this film, to Zack Snyder's Justice League, um, it finishes and it's much more true to Superman in the comics. And I actually think it was Whedon's Superman that was closer to the comics, which is what everyone wanted when BVS was finishing its release. Everyone was just so distracted by the whole mouth controversy, lip, chin thing with Henry Cavill. The black suit is really nice towards the end, and it is comics accurate for his resurrection, but it made more sense to me for Superman to wear his iconic outfit at the end of the battle, like in the 2017 Justice League, so that they could be seen all together for the first time in their iconic clothing. And like I mentioned, he was the missing piece of the team to better Steppenwolf, but I do think he punched and laser beamed one guy the whole time, and his appearance at the very end didn't really amount to much of anything other than he's back. We all needed to rally around together and bring Superman back from the dead because he's the missing piece to get rid of Steppenwolf, but it didn't matter as much, especially when Flash at the end of the day was the one that really was the necessary piece to save everyone. I've liked and defended Batfleck for a long time. You'll notice that I have in the other two parts of this overall three-part topic conversation for Justice League and BVS. I've enjoyed his character arc from BVS to Justice League in 2017. The growth of becoming a loner after 20 years on the job to learning how to be a team player and kind of be more human again. Zack Snyder's Batman, when he puts together the team, he's just kind of there. He tries to put together the team and fails at first, yes, just like the theatrical version, but once the team is together, he's just kind of filling space in the room, just with his money and equipment. It was actually more interesting to see this Batman try to lead and fail miserably before going to get Superman in the Justice League 2017 film. When Joss Whedon's Batman crossed the line with Wonder Woman and mentioned Steve Trevor, that was conflict within this imperfect team. And it was Batman trying to be a symbol of hope, trying to be the symbol of hope that Superman was, because he felt so guilty about letting Clark die. Here, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Bruce just gets credit for bringing everyone together at the end, but he didn't do much else to grow as a character. Many complained that Zack Snyder's Batman in BVS was bland, and I obviously disagreed. To me, this Batman was bland in this director's cut. And I liked Batman figuring it all out as he goes and being slightly comical in the original release version. It just made more tactical sense for him to also bring in Lois Lane for Clark after they revive him, rather than her just being there by chance to stop the fighting from happening. It feels like Joss actually, in fact, had a better handle on the comics characters than Zack, which is what everyone wanted so badly after BVS. Don't get me wrong, Batman had some really cool action sequences in the final battle that were not there before with all the parademons, and I'm a big fan of those. But is anyone also going to jump the gun again and argue that Batman doesn't use guns? Because I haven't heard that argument after hearing it for all this time 5 years later. But no one wants to mention anything now. Lastly, on the core team, Cyborg is obviously the most changed out of everyone here between the films. Snyder said that Cyborg was the heart of his story. And I would argue that he was more of the central character in this film. I enjoyed seeing more of his relationship with his father and discovering what he needed to be in order to become a hero, what he needed to fight for to be a member of the Justice League. This was obviously all lost in 2017 and definitely not for the better. Here's what I think happened. When Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns, leader of DC Comics and at the time president of DC Films as a whole, when those two came together after the fallout of BVS, they were told to lighten the tone of the movie and make it more appealing to general moviegoers. I'm sure the first thing that they saw in Zack Snyder's original story and script was fans are not going to be happy with Batman taking a backseat to Cyborg in the first theatrical Justice League movie. So they changed it to put Batman as more of the central character, and Cyborg was really just there. In Zack's film, Cyborg was the one figuring out everything that the team needed to do in order to save the day. If the goal was to appease diehard comic book fans, I think that was actually the right call to put Batman more front and center. It's unfortunate that Ray Fisher did get the short end of the Hawkeye stick, but I see why he was the most disappointed by the final product in the reshoot process. I do enjoy his Cyborg more, though, here, and there's no question about that. Yes, Steppenwolf had much more clear motivation for what he was doing, but I feel like I already understood those same motivations from before, just with much more on-screen depth and dialogue. I liked the change of having Darkseid himself invade Earth in the battle all those centuries ago between the Atlanteans, the Myskerians, and the humans, and even that one lone Green Lantern Corps member. It made Darkseid the clear overall threat to Earth in the DC Extended Universe. But that also, at the same time, takes away certain stakes from Steppenwolf when dealing with Earth. Steppenwolf is just a hunter looking for redemption with his master in this film. Desaad, Darkseid's scientist crony, says that Steppenwolf betrayed Darkseid, and Steppenwolf realized that mistake long ago. But we never see that betrayal in a flashback. It's just kind of a throwaway line, and it doesn't really amount to anything. At least in the Whedon cut, he wanted redemption for failing to invade Earth. He had a reason for coming back after all this time. Steppenwolf came when he heard the mother boxes go off after Superman died, but he happened to fall into the idea of looking for now the anti-life equation, which is what Darkseid is looking for to control the entire multiverse. And I like that they mentioned the multiverse here, making everything seem bigger. That was a really nice touch. But Steppenwolf here, he just felt like a servant in this film rather than in the original theatrical film, where he felt a bit more like his own man. And I get that Darkseid's minions are all supposed to be in service to Darkseid. Everything that they do is for him. But at least with the theatrical version, Steppenwolf felt like a central movie threat rather than simply just a stepping stone for a bigger threat in a future film, to promote a future film on the way. At least with Loki in Avengers 1, he still felt like his own man, even if he was getting a little bit of help from Thanos to help conquer Earth. He still felt like his own person. But this Steppenwolf, while yes, comics true, I just still think he was a little weaker, I guess, and everyone just kind of knew, like, oh, we got to get past Steppenwolf in order to eventually take on Darkseid and take the fight to him. That was the vibe that I got from it. At the end of the day, Steppenwolf is just still a really bad movie villain choice, and you're not really going to convince me of that otherwise, especially when there are plenty of other options out there for villains. Overall, I finished this movie feeling just weird. Having defended Zack's vision after all of this time, since 2013, since Man of Steel, and even talking about it in the two other pre-recorded topics on the DCEU that we've done for this, learning about the plans for more Justice League movies under Zack Snyder, putting so much excitement on this specific release, even by just, I made a dance for this thing, and you can go find it on YouTube where I put on all my Joker makeup and everything. I'm actually glad that we didn't get this movie 4 years ago, and I honestly think you would have disliked it too if it hit the movie theater. The plans for at least the sequel of Justice League 2 were to focus much more on the nightmare sequence, the apocalyptic future where Darkseid takes over, Superman succumbs to the anti-life equation, and it's Batman trying to save what's left of Earth by going back in time and changing things. Darkseid was to be a much bigger force in the sequel, and we were kind of borderline going to live in the nightmare world in the sequel of Justice League. We'd see that this nightmare world was still going to happen, the one that was mentioned in BVS. But am I the only one who didn't want Darkseid to be the threat for 3 really long movies. With Avengers 1, you had Loki. Avengers 2, you had Ultron. And then you had Thanos for 2 movies as part of a 2-part story. And that felt like a colorful cast of Avengers movie villains. But you couldn't throw Brainiac in the mix to mix it all up, Zach? The Injustice League? I mean, I would have been okay if Starro was at least featured, and he's literally just a giant starfish. I would have been totally fine with that. The scene at the end with Deathstroke and Lex was originally meant to tease the solo Ben Affleck Batman project. And WB probably changed their minds on that movie during the Justice League reshoots and with Ben Affleck's unfortunate directorial failure in, quote-unquote failure, in his film Live by Night. And they must have said to Joss Whedon, hey, we need you to figure out how we're going to potentially put up a sequel for Justice League 2 if we get that far. And so they changed the dialogue from Zack Snyder's Justice League to the theatrical release. And I actually really liked that tease for the Injustice League rather than just Deathstroke looking to come for Batman in his solo movie. I liked the idea of the DC Extended Universe getting more villains and less parademons. Steppenwolf in the first movie, Injustice League in the second, and maybe Darkseid in the third. That would have been nice and colorful and in line with the successful formula over at Marvel, since everyone wanted DC to copy them so badly by literally bringing in the guy who did the most successful Marvel movie at the time. If you gave me the choice between watching Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'd honestly pick the 2017 movie. It's just cleaner to me. It's more smooth. It doesn't spend so much time on exposition and explanation. I mean, it's one thing to make it easier for an audience to follow what's going on, but it's also another for dialogue and scenes to just drag on, hoping to get the story going. It's just the pacing in each specific scene is just long. And maybe when I saw Justice League in the theater all those years ago, I was very happy with what I saw because we were promised additional films on these characters to flesh them out more. And so when you could go back and watch this movie, Justice League 2017, you would have more knowledge of who they are. You're doing it right now for WandaVision and Age of Ultron, so don't tell me that you wouldn't have gone back to watch stuff, because you would if you liked it. And it's not to say that I enjoyed the theatrical film because I know these characters and you don't, and you're dumb if you don't know what's going on. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I was just really excited to watch characters I grew up loving and excited to see characters now, these same characters now being shared with the rest of the world the same way that Marvel had become that way for most. General audiences didn't grow up watching Justice League on Saturday night cartoons where every episode was epic and exciting and you wanted to know what was going to happen next. Now, they could see why Justice League was the superhero team for decades. It was Justice League Avengers for so long, and it feels like so many people forget that that's what it used to be. I was excited about the promises of what was to come, just like I was with Amazing Spider-Man 2, featuring, eventual Sinister Six film and a Black Cat film and growing more in that universe. That same idea I had for Justice League of what was to come with a Cyborg movie and a Flash movie and the Aquaman movie and Justice League Part 2 and all of these extra stories going forward. It feels to me like Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns and that creative team did actually have a better understanding of the source material and wanted to give the same feelings of hope that they got as kids from watching these heroes and reading these comics. They wanted to give that to the general audience. The audience just didn't think it would work, or rather they didn't think it worked, because it was betrayal of the previous movies up to that point, and everything before was just a waste of time. It was a betrayal to them. Excuse me. I will say positively that seeing Jared Leto's Joker and Ben Affleck's Batman interact with each other was very worth it. The hatred that Batman has for this Joker is awesome, and it's great to see it played out on screen. And I wish we had more to watch, but I was satisfied by Leto's return, and at least the DCEU does have a Batman and Joker interaction, even if the actors weren't actually in the same room together. They're both just that good. Leto was meant to be more involved heavily in the nightmare sequence, and that would have been fun in a future Justice League movie where he would really impact Batman and the rest of the characters, and we would get to know a bit more about how he killed Robin in this universe. So that would have been really nice, and it's fortunate that we don't at least have that, but it was nice that Zack was able to add Jared Leto in after the fact, even though he was not a part of the original Justice League plans at all. So I do respect Zack for bringing that together. That was very nice. Also, Harry Scanwick as Martian Manhunter also was not originally part of the plans for Justice League, but it was a great post-movie change in my opinion because I think it's a great casting choice. It's a very nice touch, and I think he would have been wonderful to add to the Justice League team, not just as a character, but also as an actor coming into the overall cast chemistry. DC's director mandate, meaning that directors have more control over their projects than how it goes down at Marvel, has now proven to me that it would have been too inconsistent to be successful overall. You didn't show up to go see Shazam or Birds of Prey, even though those movies were really good. You showed up in droves to see Aquaman, which was very pretty and flashy to watch, but not nearly as much substance as some of the other films in the universe, or even the Marvel movies. And you don't like Wonder Woman 1984, even though I thought that movie was better than the first movie. Yes, we all love the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, but that was an artistic one-off that struck gold, and it doesn't impact this overall universe right now. Hindsight is 2020, and while I'm sure you all appreciate seeing this vision be much more fulfilled than originally what happened, you all wanted Zack Snyder fired from being the architect of the DC Extended Universe. How many YouTube videos, online reviews said, get him out? I remember them all way too well. But ultimately, you guys were right. I think DC dodged a bullet. They obviously ran into another one with Joss Whedon's Justice League, but at least they were trying to make a better move and listen to their audience and change. They were attempting to fix it. It was just already too late by that point. The damage was already done. No matter what happened with Justice League in 2017, that was kind of doomed from the start with the changes, whether Zack Snyder was going to be involved or someone else was going to come in and change it up. There's so much uncertainty going forward that I'm not sure exactly what to root for with DC filmmaking, because I want another Justice League movie. And WB said that they don't want shared universe stories going forward. But no one's coming to see the standalone stories. And now we're kind of back at square one again to what is happening with DC. Same thing we asked after BVS. I doubt that the Snyderverse will be revived. But if it is, because everyone wants him to come back and you want to restore the Snyderverse, I think you're all hypocrites because you all aggressively wanted him out. You got your wish. And this is the world that we live in. And even with this movie coming to streaming, which was such a rare opportunity and a great platform to have something like this, I don't think it changes WB's plans, whatever those are. If they have a plan, but you wanted him gone, and you got your wish. So for those that say, this movie is infinitely better than 2017's Justice League, to that I say, would you really have been saying that back then? And it wouldn't have been 4 hours, guaranteed. It would have probably been closer to 2.5, maybe 3 hours. But I guarantee you would not have liked this movie back in 2017 if Zack Snyder were on for Justice League, and they probably would have had to replan all their movies regardless. And just before I go, for some reason, no one is mentioning the aspect ratio on this movie. Maybe you didn't notice it because you just don't notice these kinds of things, but making this movie fit into a box to me was just such a waste of time and energy in post-production. I don't care if it was meant for IMAX theaters and that's how he wanted to shoot it for IMAX cameras, but it just added nothing to the viewing experience for being released exclusively on streaming. And the black and white release also probably won't add anything for me at the end of the day. It just feels like too much freedom. What do I know? I'm just a guy behind a table. I need a drink. If you like or dislike or if you anything on my opinions on Zack Snyder's Justice League, feel free to comment down below, like the video, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, make sure you catch Knights of the Dirty Table every Friday live at 5 on the Zenden Studios Twitch. Cheers.
Whoa! Welcome to the end of the Knights of the Dirty Table video that you just watched. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to our channel, like our video, share with all your friends, and catch our live stream every Friday live at 5 only on the Zenden Studios Twitch channel. I gotta go wander off into space. See ya! Whoa! Whoa!